व्रजजनरञ्जन जय जमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुञ्जबिहारी जय कुञ्जबिहारी जय यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुञ्जबिहारी जय कुञ्जबिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुञ्जबिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुञ्जबिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिता जय गौरनिता गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिता जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल Right? Looks like a university class almost. Right. Are you able to hear me from there? If you don't mind, you can come closer. Thank you, Prabhu. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances and seeking your blessings. I would like to share some thoughts on the topic of the ultimate misery. Probably the topic was not inspiring enough, but I think toward the end of the session you would probably recognize actually it is a very, very encouraging session. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, when you hear the ultimate misery, what comes to your mind? Death, okay? Expectations, interesting. Ultimate misery is expectations. That's a very interesting thing you mentioned. What else? Okay, Janma, okay. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Dosha, Anudarshanam, okay? What else come to your mind? Losing your loved ones, okay? Yeah. So it's not only we going through the process of death, but also witnessing our loved ones meeting death and feeling that separation. Thank you. Even otherwise also. Thank you.
Being away from Krishna and not turning towards Him.
Wow. So being away from Krishna almost perennially and practically having forgotten that relationship and not having even the idea of even turning towards Krishna. Okay? Very nice thought. Any other? Anybody from that side would like to share? Not having taste for chanting. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. All of these answers were brilliant actually. Go ahead, Sundaranda Prabhu.
Another one.
Yes.
Got the opportunity to utilize Krishna consciousness, but still not using it.
Okay, got the opportunity for practicing Krishna consciousness, but not taking full advantage of that opportunity. So that's a misery. Okay. I mean, in one sense, that is a definition of a Naradhama, lowest of mankind. All right, but it's a very nice thought. Any other? Yes, please.
We are so used to all this misery that it doesn't seem like a misery.
So used to the misery, that just getting used to the misery itself is a misery. Thank you for sharing, Mataji. Getting entitled in this material, entangled, okay. Getting entangled in this material world and forgetting Krishna. That's what you said, forgetting? Okay. It's very similar to what he said. So far it has not yet touched the spirit of the ultimate misery that I'm going to reach. And that's why it's good we are discussing this topic. All right. So my goal is to start from basic miseries of life and then increase. And as we go through that series of, obviously some of the answers you gave, they fit within that trajectory. But ultimate misery is something else altogether. And that's what I want to demonstrate. All right. So let's start with very basic. What is misery? Like, how would you define misery? From your very, very easy terms. Don't think too much, okay? What comes to your mind? Like, how do we define misery? Something which is not comfortable for body and mind. Excellent. What else come to your mind? Sadness, okay. Okay. Pain, okay. Hopelessness, okay. So, a very okay. Go ahead, Sundarana Prabhu. Yeah.
From Bhagavad, threefold miseries.
Okay. Threefold.
Klesha, Adibhata Klesha.
Yeah, I'm looking for definition. How would you define misery itself? So Mataji gave one answer. How do you define misery? She said like that which is uncomfortable to the body and the mind. That's what Mataji said. So I'm looking for some definition like that. What comes to your mind when we have to define misery? Yes.
Unexpected things that we are not.
Very nice. Unexpected things, right? Uncertainties that we are bound to face in this material world from time to time. Very good. So the simplest way of defining misery is this. Let's see whether you agree on this or not. To get what we do not want, okay, and to not get what we want. Does it make sense? Very simple. This is the most conventional definition of miseries. So you can think of miseries belonging to three categories. One is the conventional category of misery, which is kind of fitting within this definition. And then there is the absolute misery. And then there is ultimate misery. So we are going to go through these stages, okay? So conventional miseries, just like as you said, like to get what we don't want and to not get what we want. This is happening pretty much on a regular basis with us, is it not? Just last week, there was one student who came to meet me. See, I serve as a spiritual advisor in a couple of universities. So this person was looking to talk about what he is going through. So he came and attended our session fully with the hope that I can meet him one-on-one. And I had an appointment with another person, so I could not give time to him. And then after I met with the person that I had appointment with, I was leaving. I received a text message from him saying that my wallet is stolen. So I came back again to just meet him in this situation. And then he shared with me, he said, look, I came here to find solution to my misery, to talk to you about what's going on with me. Now I am like surrounded by more miseries. And he was expressing like he would have lost at least 10 different cards, including Aadhaar card and PAN card from India, because that guy just stepped into US very, very recently. So Aadhaar card, PAN card, these things are meaningful for him. And then on top of that, he lost whatever, license and number of credit cards, ATM cards, and all these things. And on top of that, there is something called Charlie card that is used in Boston for traveling. He said, I don't even know how I can get back home because I don't even have ticket for my for my bus and train. So he was in a very, very deplorable condition. And guess what? He has kept his bag in the Muslim prayer space. It's not that like he's placing his bag in some high traffic area. The most, you can think of the harmless possible place in a prayer room. That's where he had kept his bag to attend our session. And he lost his wallet. So this is the nature of this place, The miseries come uninvited without necessarily we running after it. We run after happiness, but what follows us is misery. Miseries of material existence. So as Sundarananda Prabhu nicely pointed out, so these conventional miseries, they belong to three categories. Adhyatmika klesha, Adidaivika klesha, and Adibhautika klesha, right? Adhyatmika klesha is that kind of misery which is originating from our own body and mind, right? What would be an example of that kind of misery? Headache, okay. Nice one. Yeah, and sometimes anxieties, yeah, mind is most of the time filled with anxieties these days. Bodily injuries, yeah. Some tiny little creatures biting us. There are many places in Boston which are infested with bed bugs. And you can imagine the trouble when that happens. And usually when we go through that, the miseries miseries which are on account of our own body and mind, others cannot relate to it because they may not be going through the same, because we are individual soul experiencing individual misery packaged for ourselves, right? Then the second category of misery is that kind of misery which is coming out of natural conditions, by the will of providence. That is Adi Daivika. So the cosmic managers are all the time controlling us. They are called demigods. And they are invisibly controlling us. And there are so many places that go from time to time. They are subjected to natural calamities. I mean, US is filled with such places. Just go down south and you will be placed in one of those zones where there will be hurricanes and tornadoes and whatnot. So these are examples of natural calamities. So all we can do, we can create very, very sophisticated models so that we can come closer to predicting it. We cannot stop it. And we can be very, very happy that we managed to predict it, And sometimes that is also very tough. Like things like earthquakes and all these things are even harder to predict. Some things you can put into the model and you can predict something. And when that happens, we ask fundamental questions of life. Why me? Why these innocent people like this? We ask questions, right? But believe it or not, we all have to go through from time to time these miseries, the conventional miseries of material existence. The third category of misery is Adi Bhautika. So Adi Bhautika Klesha is when other living entities are causing us trouble. So other living entities, let's say human beings. So relationship issues are probably the number one issue. Among all the issues, actually, relationship issues are, I think, the biggest one that give us a lot of trouble. Is it not? We cannot actually bring our focus to anything when there is some turmoil in some relationship. So, but if you notice carefully, all these miseries, they are ultimately boiling down to Adhyatmika, because it is subject to interpretation by our own mind, right? So if our mind is strong, we can actually then deal with all of these other miseries in different ways. So ultimately all miseries, all conventional miseries boil down to the miseries which are originating from the mind. That makes sense? Now, if you read Bhagavad Gita carefully, you will see that miseries are natural part of the strategies that we employ to satisfy our desires in this material world. Krishna says that yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adi antavanta kaunteya na teshu ramate buddha. Right? So what does Krishna say there? That yehi sansparsha ja. All the time we are having experiences of life by bringing our senses in contact with some sense objects with a spirit to enjoy. And Krishna is saying that yehi sansparsha ja, what that gives rise to or what that generates. Talk about etymology, right? Generates, G. Ja. So what that gives rise to is misery. Yehi sansparsha ja bhoga, with the intention to enjoy. Dukkha yonaya evate. Krishna is saying, know that to be the cause of your misery. If you think about it, what that means is that whenever we are running after sense gratification, we are setting the stage for receiving misery from the very same object that we are today running after. Do you understand this point? The very thing that we are considering to be the source of our happiness, because of which we are running after that object, that same object, Krishna is saying, is going to become your source of misery. So how do you prove this point? Can you think of how to actually establish this point? That the very object that we run after, thinking that I'm going to find enjoyment, that very object becomes the source of our misery.
Because that's not permanent.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what Krishna says in the next part of the verse. Adi antavanta kaunteya na teshu ramate buddha. Because every object in this material world, every single object in this material world has a beginning or an end, except for two things. The soul, the living entity, and the holy name. Except for the two things, everything else is temporary. So anything that we try to form our affinity towards, it's going to become the cause of our future misery. Because adi anta vanta kaunteya na teshu ramade buddha. And therefore those who are Buddha, so there are only two kinds of living entities in this world. Buddhu and Buddha. Buddha and Buddhu. So Krishna says those who are Buddha, those who are intelligent, they don't buy into this strategy for finding happiness. At this point of actually the law of diminishing marginal returns has been also established by the prominent economists in this world. If you analyze carefully, now let me just prove this point, okay, a little more. Generally speaking, when you go after purchasing something, what happens? Especially in country like US, when there are so many choices. When you go to the supermarket, even just on the take any topic, take any kind of item, like whether it is a box of cereal, you will have the whole aisle filled with box of cereals, right? You think about getting a cell phone line, you think about getting a TV, there will be like number of choices presented before you. So an economist analyzes that actually with the increased number of choices, you don't get actually benefit. You actually become more miserable. And this is the reason. Because when there are increased number of choices, now you would have to make that calculation. What is called, you have to pay the opportunity cost to figure out which particular option is the best thing for you. You understand? You have to go through that research. And if you make a mistake there, later on you're going to regret. Okay, I wish I had done enough research so that I would have made the right choice. So high opportunity cost. Second problem is that it is called regret sensitivity. So regret sensitivity is the idea that you regret about the choices you did not make. Suppose you are thinking about spending the Thanksgiving weekend that is coming up in Hawaii, okay? Or Niagara Falls. And you decide to go there and you saw that the whole place is just filled with people. You thought that you're going to have a nice private time with nature. And then you see that, oh my God, everywhere I have to just stand in queue for simple things, So then you start becoming regretful of the choices that you did not make. You start thinking about, okay, I wish I had gone to a little quieter place. You see? So this is called regret sensitivity. Third is the principle of adaptation. The principle of adaptation is that anything that you buy or anything that you get, it has an initial appeal that I will get a lot of happiness if I get this. Talk about Tesla, for example, okay? I mean, those who are students, they are practically paupers in this country. I mean, who are international students. For them, like, oh my God, Tesla. It's like possessing a Tesla is a perfection of life. It's almost like that. But guess what? It can also give trouble. I had a meeting with one of the senior directors in the company, and he did not show up on time. I thought, what happened? And then I saw a text message from him that, Partha, sorry, I'm getting late. I will text you when I come. And then I waited for about half an hour in my office, and then he said, okay, you can come now. So I went to his office, he shared what happened. So he had almost like a brand new Tesla. And he was driving, and all of a sudden the car stopped. And then he called the mechanic, the mechanics came, they looked into the car and tried to resolve the problem, and they could not find any problem. They inspected the whole thing, whole system, and then they left without doing anything. And guess what? After that, the car started. And he was telling me the part that like it's actually a bigger problem for me now because I don't know what happened exactly. So the principle of adaptation is that the initial, that charm that is there, that I am going to be so happy, whether it is with some material object or in relationship, like everything new looks very lucrative. Okay, oh my God, all my enjoyment is going to be fulfilled with this object. But over a period of time, it becomes hackneyed. The same object, it becomes like, okay, big deal, you know? Have you not experienced this? Every single thing in this world is like that. All the time. So overall, I see that you have four possibilities, okay? Either you get something. No, first choice is that you are really hankering after something. You don't get it. Therefore, you become frustrated. Second possibility is that you hankered for something and you got that thing. But unfortunately, it is falling short of the expectations that you had. Like one of the points that we went was expectations. It's just falling short of the expectation. And then you again become miserable. The third possibility is that you get the anticipated amount of pleasure that you thought of, but it doesn't last. It eventually becomes again hackneyed. The law of diminishing marginal returns comes in and again we become miserable. Do you see that? So this is the phenomena in every single thing in this world. And therefore we are bound to become miserable. And with increased number of choices, it's increased amount of misery because we are the one who is responsible for making the right choice when we are presented with all the possibilities, you know. So that is the analysis. So now let's talk about what are the fundamental, or you can say absolute misery. So how would you define absolute misery? So absolute misery can be defined like this, that it must satisfy three criteria. The first is that it must be common to everyone. Second is nobody likes it. And third is nobody can avoid it. Is it clear? Three criteria. So see, any of these conventional problems, one may say, okay, I am facing this tremendous financial crisis. The other person says, okay, that's not my problem, that's your problem. Right? You see, that becomes very subjective. So conventional miseries are more subjective in nature. But here we are talking about objective problems of life. And they have to satisfy these three conditions. They must be common to everyone. Nobody likes it and nobody can avoid it. And then it is absolute misery. Right? And what fits in that? As Prabhu already mentioned, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. Right? Nobody likes it, nobody can avoid it. Right? And it's common to everyone. Why is birth a problem? Okay. Okay. What are the other ways you can... Because, see, Mrityu, everyone can understand, okay, nobody likes that untimely death. Death doesn't have any notice that, okay, I'll come exactly at that time in your life. There's no such thing, you know. There is no notice. I mean, when we hear about Parikshit Maharaj, he was cursed to die in 7 days. So he had a guarantee for living for 7 days. We do not have even 1 second of guarantee. That's our situation. So death we can understand. Old age we can understand, like one by one, different bodily parts, they fall apart, right? And then disease, nobody likes to be diseased, right? Like nobody likes to feel miserable. So we can understand these three. But what about birth? All three come because of birth. Okay, that's kind of a little philosophical, but I'm just trying to understand what are the thoughts you have. Excellent. So the whole birth process is actually filled with suffering because the correct position for the baby is to be inverted position to come out, right? In fact, if the baby doesn't go inverted, then it's called breech. Then there is a problem. And who likes to be kind of being in that position of inverted position and then surrounded by all kinds of fluids inside the body. And that too for 9 months, the baby has to tolerate all these things. Okay, that's understandable. What else can you think of?
When the mother is eating spicy food, baby is
Yeah.
affected.
Yep. So overall, we understand that the conditions around which the birth of the baby is happening, it is miserable, and that's why when baby is coming out, no baby is coming out with a yay kind of thing. The baby comes out with like crying. All the others are celebrating, but the baby always comes out of the womb in a crying condition, right? There is always death when there is birth. Very nice. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Very good.
Feels like, for example, I get itch. I'm grown up, so I can do something. But if the baby gets itch, she cannot tell, I have itch here, please scratch here.
Yeah. So there are many ways the baby is put in an uncomfortable position where the baby cannot take care of itself and it can't even express, and therefore it is going through a lot of suffering. That's understandable. See, when we are taking birth, we never make a choice. I want to get born in this particular family with this much amount of wealth, with this much amount of education, this much amount of opportunity. No one has the privilege to make such a choice. And therefore it's a suffering. We are forced. So if you notice carefully in all the 4 cases, it's forced upon us. It's not something we choose. Anything that we are not making choices and we are helpless, it's a miserable condition. That makes sense? So birth, death, old age and disease, these are all forced upon us. And just like Mataji said, it's forced upon us in a cycle. And there is no respite. There is no way to get out. That's a big problem. So these are all absolute miseries. So now let's get into what could be the ultimate misery. Okay. Any thought before I enter into that topic? Because that's basically the the crux. Okay. Cycle of birth and death. So cycle of birth and death is again like placed in the context of absolute misery, right? Forgetfulness, okay. And there is a very beautiful verse that can be quoted to establish this ultimate misery. Going into animal kingdom, okay? Yeah. So again, like these things are, this is connected with the point of birth that I made, that we are forced to take birth in the animal kingdom. We don't choose to get to the animal kingdom. Whatever conditions, they are determined by our past karma, right? So that again falls within the category of absolute. Having no mercy of Krishna, okay? So now the thing is that we all have mercy of Krishna. It just because of some offenses, okay? Okay. So definitely that's a misery, that's for sure. Okay. So let's start here. So Prince Dhruva, you all know the story of Dhruva, right? So Dhruva, when he felt insulted by his stepmother, and as guided by his own mother, Suniti, he just ran to the forest to find Vishnu, because his mother had said that, okay, I can't help you, but I have heard from the sages that if you reach out to Vishnu, you can get anything, basically. But Dhruva at that time, what he wanted was very simple love. He was looking for love at the end of the day. He saw his brother Uttam getting an opportunity to sit on his father's lap, King Uttanpad, and he was not given that simple opportunity. But because he was a prince, he also took it as an insult. And he thought that, okay, now I have to actually show my power. So his goal was to get a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather. So his desires got magnified now. So no one can compare with Dhruva in terms of the level of material desire. Like before we just talked about material desire, right? How it brings misery, right? We said, yehi sansparsha ja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. That whenever we are running after the sense objects with a spirit to enjoy, that very object becomes the cause of our misery. But here Dhruva is looking for the greatest possible pleasurable object that is conceivable to him based on the experience that he went through. Okay? So he met the most merciful Narad Muni on his way to the forest. And Narad Muni tested him thoroughly. He said, "You are a tiny little boy. Why are you taking all this seriously? just go home and be happy." He said, "No, I'm sorry. Like your words don't even touch my heart. So give me a pious process by which I can achieve my goal. This is my goal. You just give me a theistic way to achieve this goal." So that was Dhruva. And Narad Muni then instructed Dhruva to meditate on Lord Vishnu. And Dhruva meditated on Vishnu through mantra that Narad Muni gave, Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And within a very short span of time, Dhruva attained success. And he got to meet Lord Vishnu face to face. So the Vishnu, the Lord, the Supreme Lord Vishnu on whom Dhruva was meditating, the same Vishnu, it's almost like Vishnu is stepping out of his own heart and showed himself up in front of him. And Lord Vishnu touched his conch shell on Dhruva's head. Just imagine the experience. And Dhruva Maharaj experienced tremendous amount of purification with that touch of Lord Vishnu. Of course, he was following the instructions of his spiritual master, Narad Muni. Just with that following of the instructions of his spiritual master, he got completely purified. So when he met Lord Vishnu, this is the exchange. So what is the exchange? So he said, this is expressed not directly in Srimad Bhagavatam, but it is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he says that Sthana Abhilashi Tapasi Sthitoham. Sthana Abhilashi means what? I was meditating on the position. Sthana Abhilashi. I was desiring to have the position which is greater than my great grandfather. Now, have you analyzed who is that personality? So let's analyze very quickly, okay? So Dhruva's father was Uttanpad. Uttanpad's father was Swayambhuva Manu. So that's grandfather. And then Swayambhuva Manu's father was Lord Brahma. So he's looking for sovereignty over a kingdom which is greater than whatever Lord Brahma has control over. That was his dream. And so he's expressing Sthana Abhilashi, Tapasi, Sthito Aham. I went through all these austerities, dreaming of that position. And then what happened is, Tvam Praptavan Deva Munindra Guyam. But now I have obtained your divine association. Tvam Praptavan. Tvam Praptavan means, I got your divine association, my dear Lord Vishnu. And who is Lord Vishnu? Deva Munindra Guyam. Vishnu is unreachable even for the greatest of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Deva, Muni, okay, the great sages, the greatest of the sages, the greatest of the cosmic managers, they have a hard time reaching Vishnu. Munindra Guyam. Guyam means you remain a mysterious personality even for the greatest of the demigods and the greatest of the sages. That's who you are. And I have obtained you, Tvam Praptavan, Deva Munindra Guyam. And then he says, Kacham Vichinman Api. Kacham Vichinman Api Divya Ratnam. You are just like the most precious jewel in all of existence. And I just was considering that as a mere piece of glass. So Kacham Vichinvan. Pacham Vichrimani means another way of looking at it is, I was looking for broken pieces of glass. In other words, the desires that I was having, they're no more than just broken pieces of glass in front of a Ratna like you, like your audience, your personal audience in front of me. And therefore, Swamin Kritartoham Varam na yache. So this, Dhruva Maharaj speaks when Lord Vishnu says, you can ask me for anything. He says, Swamin Kritartho Asmi. I am just satisfied by getting your association. Varam na yache. I don't have any more desires. So you saw the contrast here. When we run after material desires, our buckets become filled with material miseries. But when we go and express our spiritual, heartfelt, emotions before the Supreme Lord, while we may be chasing after material objects, what happens is that our heart becomes purified. So the Supreme Lord, in reciprocation, He purifies our heart to such an extent that all these material objects, they become practically meaningless. They become like literally broken pieces of glass. Now this particular verse I quoted because it is related to one beautiful Kevalashtakam verse. Kevalashtakam has a very beautiful verse, which is one of my favorite verses, which says that Aho dukkham, maha dukkham, dukkhad, dukkhataram yataha, kachartham vismrutam ratnam. Do you see the same phrase, almost the same phrase appearing there? Kachartham vismrutam ratnam, harer nama eva kevalam. So what is this saying? Aho dukkham. Oh, what misery, Maha dukkham. Greatest of all miseries, Aho dukkham, maha dukkham, dukkhad, dukkhataram yataha. Whatever dukkha you can conceive of, they're nothing in comparison to this dukkha. You can understand why I called it ultimate misery. And what is that ultimate misery? The ultimate misery is that Kacham Vismritam Ratnam. When the holy name is reaching out to us, the most merciful feature, the most merciful form of the Supreme Lord is reaching out to us to give us full mercy, full benediction. And we do not even pay heed to that, We just consider that to be just a mere piece of glass. So when that happens, that is our greatest misery. So let's try to understand this point even more. So it is expressed that Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinatvam Nama Namino. So our whole theology of chanting of Hare Krishna is based on this verse. Maharaj was expressing the regard, the adar, right? The regard, the respect, the affection, all of these, adoration that we want to have for the holy name, right? So why we are supposed to have that kind of respect, adoration? Because Nama Chintamani Krishna's, that holy name is just like Chintamani. Chintamani means wish-fulfilling gem, which can fulfill any desire, literally any desire. And therefore, you better think about what you are desiring. Because the holy name has that potency to satisfy any desire whatsoever. So, Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. And it is the embodiment, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Krishna is Akhila Rasa Amrita Murti. Krishna is the embodiment of all rasas. And the holy name is non-different from Krishna. That's what this is saying. So he's saying that know that the qualities of the holy names are as follows. Purna, it is complete. You don't need to take shelter of any other names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And it is Shuddha, it is completely pure. Purna Shuddha and Nitya Mukta, it is eternally liberated. And all of these qualities are there because of this basic axiomatic principle, which is abhinatvam namanamino. There is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's holy names. And because of that, just imagine what we are vibrating when we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that's why Maharaj began the whole seminar with the holy name dancing on the tongue, right? And he said that the dancing on the tongue, what's happening is that it's actually taking birth in the courtyard of the heart. It first of all dances in the courtyard of the heart, and then it occupies, right? Then it conquers the mind and the mind's activities. And then it reaches all the senses. Right? So because the holy name is literally descending from the spiritual abode. Kali Kale Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar. Right? So there is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's holy name. That holy name is there in our life, and we are not paying attention to that holy name. So this is our miserable condition. Right? So let me tell you a story. So there was one person who was going through a very difficult phase of his life. His son has contracted a terminal disease, and day by day the condition is deteriorating. And he heard of a sadhu, a saint in the neighborhood, and he thought of meeting that saint and expressing his condition to see if there is any solution. But when we approached that particular ashram, that saint was not there. He has gone to some other place. So he got to meet his disciples who were there. So he approached one of his prominent disciples and expressed his heart that this is what I'm going through. Can you please help? And then he said that, okay, you take a paper, write down on the paper, Rama 3 times. Rama, Rama, Rama. And then fold it in a paper cup form, like a conical shape, and put water and you drink sips from it. You drink and you feed your terminal, your son who is currently suffering from the terminal disease. So he took it to his heart, went, and after a few days he came back, jumping up and down. And by that time, the saint has come back from his travel. And he said, I really want to offer my gratitude for what your disciple has done to me. He said, what has he done? He said that he has cured my son who had no hope whatsoever. Then he asked what suggestion he gave. So he said that the suggestion he gave was to take a piece of paper and write down the name of Rama 3 times and drink water made of that paper cup. And he said, what? My disciple is a fool. He asked you to write the name of Ram 3 times? Even once would have been sufficient. And then he asked for his disciple. And then he gave his disciple a stone. He said, can you please find the price of this stone for me? And the disciple got this assignment from his spiritual masters. He was taking it very seriously. So first he went to just a normal vendor, the vegetable vendor. And the vegetable vendor got that stone. He saw, okay, I can give you the price of a potato for that. I don't see of any use. And then he said, okay, no problem. So he took that and then go to the next place. And these were different places. Different people were quoting different values for that particular stone. Then he thought of going to the jeweler and getting their estimate. And the jeweler consulted, and then they said, okay, we are going to give you maybe $10,000 worth of money. So, wow, the value has increased so much. And then he thought of going to the ruling king, and he showed this stone. And the king said, okay, I'll find out. And the king, after consulting the ministers and the most knowledgeable persons in his kingdom, he came back and said, you know what, this this stone that you have got is very precious. I am willing to give you half a kingdom. So, wow, half a kingdom? That's good enough price. I think my search has been done. So he went to his spiritual master and said, okay, I found out the price of this. The king is willing to give half a kingdom for this stone. Then he told the disciple that, can you get that iron rod from that corner? And then he got and he touched that iron rod to that stone, and the iron transformed into gold. So he said that this is no ordinary stone, this is a philosopher's stone. and therefore, no amount of actually material wealth can value or can measure up to the value of this stone. And he said that the holy name is just like that. There is no material evaluation that you can give to the holy name of the Supreme Lord. And therefore they are Nama Chintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So when we are receiving this holy name and we are not taking it seriously, we are not valuing what we have received without our even asking for it, without our even toiling hard for it. It has been given to us just like a gift. So how much actually fortunate we are, just think about it. And to just consider that as an ordinary object, that is the greatest misery that we can have. So I hope I have convinced you that after going through the discussion on the 3 stages of misery, that there cannot be a bigger misery than undervaluing or even materially evaluating the position of the holy names. And that's why one of the offenses that we chant is to give some mundane interpretation on the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Right? It's not that, okay, by chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, I'll score very high in my exam. That may very well happen, but that's just a sidekick. That's not the real deal. The real deal is that it's going to fill our heart with love of God. There was a king, he had a very, very difficult time with one particular individual in his kingdom who was very, very unruly. So he thought, how I can actually somehow fix that individual. So he came up with so this king was a very compassionate king, so he was thinking about every single citizen and thinking, okay, how I can actually have everyone lead a happy life. So he changed his dress. He became like an ordinary person. And then mingled around with that person, befriended that person, trained him up nicely. And he said, okay, now you are actually suitable to become a minister in my kingdom. So you can come now. So he invited him. And then he didn't say my kingdom. He said that, okay, you're not suitable to become a minister in the kingdom. So he then invited him to come. And then when he reached the palace, Jai Shri Radha Shyam Sundar ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. So when he reached the palace, he saw that the same king who spent so many days with him, training him up, transforming him, he changed his dress and then sat on the throne. He said, oh my God, I was dealing with the king himself. And all this time I didn't even recognize. So holy name is just like that. It may sound ordinary to us. You can test it out. How you can test it out? Just chant Coca-Cola the same number of times. You would not be able to, sustain that practice. Holy name has something that actually keeps us going. Keeps us going. And that's why we get into the rhythm of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It may appear to be very bitter for a jaundiced person, just like Maharaj was explaining, that if you keep taking it, the sweetness of the holy name will get restored So just like this. So this unruly person, so we are all like that. We are very unruly with so many material desires afflicting us on a regular basis. But the holy name is entering into our life and then transforming us from within. And then ready to give us a position in the abode of Lord Krishna. It's constantly inviting us to get into a higher plane of existence, elevating our consciousness, receive the most transcendental happiness that we can conceivably find in the whole of existence. So I hope with this you can take your chanting very seriously, and tomorrow is a great opportunity to actually enter into this precious association with the holy name, with the right mood, that please engage me in your service. That holy name is non-different from Krishna. So we are actually praying to the name, through the name, effectively. And therefore, it's a great opportunity to take association of the holy name for a prolonged period of time tomorrow, and with the right consciousness, and try to apply whatever you have learned. And that way, we can experience progressive transformation within our heart. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any question? Do we have time for question? Okay. I thought of, yes, Prabhu. Huh? What is it? Okay. Okay. I mean, if you want to echo his question, feel free to do so. Okay. Any other? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so as you explained, he tell me that
I think the mic is coming. Thank you, Shreyas.
So, Prabhuji, as you explained, like Dhruv Maharaj, he wanted to achieve the higher post than his father, right, at least. So, he went with the material desire, but he got Shakshat darshan of Hari, Sri Hari. So that changed him basically, right? In our case, I think it's a practice, I mean, until and unless we reach to that point that we can feel Shakshat Hari by continuously practicing, then only we may be able to reach to that stage where we can see that this is nothing what we are hankering for, right? So like Narad Muni gave him the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, that's the mantra you have to chant to please Lord Vishnu. And until unless he reached to that point, he couldn't get there basically.
It is not true that it's only after coming in contact with Lord Vishnu that he experienced purification. He experienced purification on account of two things. He was associating with the holy name in the form of Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Second, he was steadfastly, really to the exact set of instructions that Narad Muni had given him, following to the dot, without any deviation. So, because of following the instructions of his spiritual master and associating with the holy name, which is non-different from Krishna again, he was going through the purification process. One cannot actually meet the Supreme Lord face to face without having reached the purification of the heart. So, we all have the same opportunity. And that's why I was explaining that Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukto Abhinatvam Nama Namino. There is no difference between really physically coming in front of Krishna face to face and just coming in contact with the vibrations, the sound vibration of Krishna. Literally, this is the axiomatic principle. There is no difference. We are not having that experience of the presence of Krishna in the holy name because we are not purified enough, right? Atah Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grayam indriya, right? There is nothing of Krishna that we can actually fully experience at this moment, right? Na ataha. So Krishna, Nam Adi, Na bhaved grayam indriya. With our blunt senses, we cannot access the transcendental position of any of these attributes of Krishna. That doesn't mean that they are not transcendental. It's that we are not having that experience. And therefore, what do we have to do? Sevan mukhehi jivha adav. Swayam eva spurati adaha. We have to keep actually vibrating the same thing with our jiva. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In the mood of service, Sevan mukh, in the mood of service, that please engage me in your service. Then, Swayam eva spurati adaha. The quality, the natural quality of the holy name, it's just going to come out in the form of our own realization from within. That's what is going to happen. So the holy name is fully and transcendentally non-different. We do not have the fullness of that experience. That is our position. So we would have to purify ourselves. It is said that Nitya Siddha, Nitya Siddho, Krishna Prema, Shadho, Kubhunoy, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte, Koroy Uday. That the love of God is actually so this is acting just like, a very simple example can be given. If you take a matchbox, right? The fire is within every single matchstick. The fire is already there within the wood. But the fire that is there, it has to come out through a process. So when you strike the matchstick against that surface where there is friction, through friction, the fire that is within the wood comes out. So there is a process to generate that which is already within the core. So likewise, for us also, the love of God is already there. But for it to come out, we have to follow the process. That process is Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. Every day, every single day. So as we actually go through that process, then that natural purity that is there, decorating the soul, is just going to become palpable. It is there, but we are not in touch with that quality. And that's the point I'm trying to express here. And holy name has the potency to bring out that most natural condition that the soul has. That make sense? Yeah. Okay. Sundarananda Prabhu? Yes, that's correct. So we are forgetful by nature. We are tatastha shakti. We are fallible by nature. And because we are fallible by nature, we have to adopt a process so that we can be reminded. And there's no other way. Because that's our position in this world. We have voluntarily accepted that conditioned state. So as long as we are conditioned, our conditions are going to be the same. We are always we are dealing with, conditions, conditioning, and consciousness. Right? So we have to deal with the conditions of this world, which we already went through. We are dealing with the conditioning of the heart, which is always, interacting with the modes of material nature, getting influenced by them. But then there is the consciousness. When the consciousness is bathed by the holy name, right, in the form of the chanting, so what happens is that the conditionings, they dissolve. And when the conditionings dissolve, then our conditions improve. And then we can actually realize our true nature. But because like we have to sort of deal with the conditioning while we are practicing the process, there will be that experience of up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Because we are still conditioned. That's the bottom line. But the good thing is that when we are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, if we bring that sincerity, that craving, that striving, that I want to chant without offenses, or trying to chant with attention, just trying to use whatever we are able to find, any tool, any technique, any condition, whatever we can get hold of, just trying to improve the quality of our chanting. When we try to do that, Krishna gets pleased with that effort. And therefore then Krishna releases his Kripa Shakti, then that magic can happen anytime for anybody. And we cannot control that, unfortunately. So we can crib about it, we can actually discuss about it, but ultimately master key is held by Krishna, always. But we can still experience, even in this conditioned state, when we are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we can experience, to the extent we are striving, we can experience the sweetness of that chanting. If there is no sweetness, we would not be chanting for so many years. I mean, you yourself had been chanting for so many years. You would not be doing that. There is definitely some taste you are experiencing. But that taste will just grow and grow and grow with more and more purification of the heart. And that is the process that we are following. Is that okay, Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Anything else? Yes, please.
So sounds like maybe, like you already mentioned, to recognize the value of the holy name, Shravanam Kirtanam, keep on doing. So maybe regularly hearing the glories of the holy name, regularly reading the glories of the holy name will help better.
See, whatever we may hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, from our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, the representatives of Srila Prabhupada, whatever we are hearing from them, because they are connected with the core theology of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are always actually attacking our material conceptions of life. So if you analyze all the 10 offenses that we generally recite, right, to blaspheme the devotees or dedicate their lives, provoking the holiness of the Lord, we go on in the list, right, the different offenses that we recite. You can easily perform an exercise. Each and every offense can be correlated with a particular material conception of life. So ultimately what needs to be addressed are those material conceptions of life. So when we are hearing, the hearing actually literally overrides those material conceptions with spiritual conceptions. And when they get overwritten with spiritual conceptions, then that help us come to the platform of offenseless position. And because of that cleansing, we experience an elevation of consciousness. Because they are ultimately, like that hearing process is attacking that offensive nature. That's how I see it. I was thinking about another point, but it evaporated. That's okay.
I was asking about the specifically glories of the holy name will help also.
Definitely it will help, hearing the glories, but I'm just saying that anything that we pick from Srimad Bhagavatam, or when we hear from Srila Prabhupada, let's say, our material conceptions are under attack. And ultimately it boils down to the glories of the holy name, if you think about it, right? Because the glories of the holy name become magnified to the extent the offenses in our heart, they dissipate, right? So yes, everything in that sense is connected with bringing some quality in the chanting of the holy names. Yes, it came back. What I wanted to say is that our spiritual life go on two tracks, right? It is the track of clarity and the track of purity. So whenever we are actually hearing, what's happening is that we are clearing, right? We are developing more and more clarity about the conceptions of life, conceptions of transcendence. All the conceptions become clarified. So it is a track of clarity. And as we become more clear, then we can actually go down the path of purity, which is the chanting of the holy names, right, which is the cleansing process, which is the purifying process, it's actually then is helpful to kind of derive strength from that clarity that we have received. So when we receive clarity, it enhances purity. When we become more pure, it enhances our clarity. So there is a positive feedback loop there. So that's the hearing and chanting pieces. Okay? Hare Krishna. By the way, these words of clarity and purity actually came from Srila Rupa Swami, because when he shares how he came into Krishna consciousness, and when he describes the moment he came in touch with Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, he says in his words that I learned that it is not a book of poetry and I don't understand it, right? But then he completes that whole picture by saying, what I received really are two things, clarity and purity, which were not to be found in anything else that I tried in other practices or other books. So that's where I'm deriving this answer from, just kind of giving you some idea. Anything else? You have something? Two questions, okay?
One question.
One question, okay?
So we chant 16 rounds, either like we follow our Guru Maharaj, that's why we chant, or Prabhupada told us, instructed us to chant 16 minimum rounds, that's why we chant. But is there any significance of that number 16?
Okay, significance of the number 16. So actually, according to Bhagavad Gita, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yadantasya Dridavata. We are supposed to chant all the time. And actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say that I am not going to visit any home who is not a millionaire. I'm just Lakhpati. It sounds very weird, right? Sannyasi is saying, okay, I'm not going to visit any home who is not a millionaire. But his interpretation of millionaire was that Lakhpati, meaning like if that person is not minimally chanting 1 lakh names, that 1 lakh names corresponds to 64 rounds, approximately. Because Haridas Thakur used to chant 3 lakh names, 300,000 names, which is approximately mapping to 192 rounds. If you calculate pretty much, if you take 8 hours for chanting 64 rounds, then 8 times 3, 24 hours is gone for Haridas Thakur. I don't know when he is sleeping. So my point is that, so from the absolute standard, pretty much these figures come out, 192 rounds, 64 rounds. Now, Prabhupada, what he did is that he empowered this number 16. And you would see that when you take initiation, 16 somehow or other we are able to manage by that mercy. Life is complicated enough, Chanting 16 rounds is a big deal for a family person. Family life is just filled with so many responsibilities, so many complexities. Every day is a different day. Dynamically, we are thrown into a pool of problems from time to time, and we don't know how to actually manage the chanting of 16 rounds on certain days. But we still are able to manage. Why? Because 16 is an empowered number by Srila Prabhupada. So that's how we should look at it. So, but the instruction is actually not 16, but at least 16. So at least 16 is manageable because it is empowered by the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Yes, it is an empowered number. That's how I would explain.
So actually it comes from the lakh, like it came like 64 rounds. If we chant, it comes out to be 1 lakh name. And from there, like Prabhupada, he broke down it to be okay, like you do 16 rounds and it's...
Yeah, so Prabhupada analyzed the condition
Yes.
of the people who are going to come, just like Vyasdev had analyzed. Vyasdev is 3 Kalagya. Srila Prabhupada was also an empowered Acharya. He analyzed the conditions of the people who are going to come, the future products of Kali Yuga. 16 rounds is good enough. But no less. That's also is important. Now, we cannot actually lower the standard than what Prabhupada has given. Because that's an empowered number. That's what I'm trying to explain. So it is not just because it is 100,000, some multiple of 100,000. not a multiple factor of 1,000, 100,000 or something,
So many a time this question comes like, if you are preaching someone and they ask you how many rounds do you do, and when we say like 16, then this question comes like, what is the significance of 16? I have heard 11 or 21, but the 16. Like,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
So it is because it is empowered by Srila Prabhupada. You have a question? Yes. Well, I mean, all these are, I think, flowery interpretation of that. Literally flowery interpretation of that. There's nowhere you can find in Srila Prabhupada's book explaining that, right? But you will find anecdotes of how that 16 came into picture. Like, the devotees were asking, it's too much, And I said, okay, no more, that's it. So in other words, it's Srila Prabhupada's unique gift. You can say unique gift and concession to all of us, just so that we can actually survive the spiritual life and qualify to go back home, back to Godhead. And that's the beauty of this whole process. That it is only because of mercy of Srila Prabhupada that we can stand on that instruction that, okay, 16 is going to bear success. Otherwise, there is no other hope. There is no other good reason, actually. Is that okay? Okay, thank you very much. I really grateful to all of you that you stood here and tolerating me speaking. As Mataji said, actually we need at least audience in order to hold these programs. So you had been here. I'm really grateful to you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
You have come all the way from Boston just for one day, share your real life knowledge and teach classes with us. Afternoon session was very helpful. Thank you for sharing. We'll have the aarti now, 7 o'clock, and then we'll do the prasad. Thank you very much. See you all tomorrow with more energy.
जय गौरनिताय 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 कि बजय जय गोरा चांदेर आरती को शोभा कि बजय